Many times when students are answering multiple choice questions, they read until the first answer sounds right, mark it, and move on. Unfortunately, the first answer that was close wasn't the best possible answer. To combat this problem, teach your students bullseye answers. Begin your instruction by identifying the types of multiple choice answers and the rings of the bullseye board. Any answer that falls out here on the black ring is far from correct. In fact, a lot of times they include false information. Answers that fall within the blue ring are often true. They're actual details from the text. However, they don't answer the very question being asked. This is the one that throws our kids because they're rushing so quickly. They are just reading the answers. They think, yeah, I remember reading that, and they mark it. But they don't realize that that detail doesn't match the question that was asked. Blue ring answers are not the best possible ones. In general, it's pretty easy for students to get rid of the black and the blue ring answers. But red ring answers are even more difficult because they're mostly correct. These answers require students to read carefully because what's written in the answer is possibly true. It's correct, but maybe it's not complete. Is there another answer that's more correct? A lot of times it's the little words within these answers that cause the difference. An or, and always, most of the time. If kids read carefully and notice these little qualifier words, they're more apt to find the yellow ring bullseye answers. Once you've introduced bullseye answers, the board, the concept, and the type of options, then you're going to want to model this for your students. Literally read aloud a question and read aloud every possible answer. Pause and let the students hear you think out loud. Let them hear you hem and haw over the options, how you rationalize the best possible choice. This strategy is more than just picking the right answer. We're teaching students to be problem solvers and think critically. After defining the rings of the board and doing some modeling, let's now release the workload to the students. Give each group their own bullseye board and sticky notes with 4 possible answers. Then provide a question with answers. With groups each huddled around their own board with their sticky note options in hand, they're going to look up and see your projected question and the 4 possible multiple choice answers. Their job is to work as a team and decide where every one of those answers falls on the board. Now, let me show you a question, but this is a teacher example, not one I would actually do with students. If the question was, which answer best describes why someone would choose teaching as a profession, we're going to read each of the 4 optional answers, and then we're going to place our sticky notes. So if the first option was teachers are contracted to work approximately 200 days per year, I want to think, well, yeah, that's true, but is that why teachers get into is that the best reason teachers would get into the profession? I'm thinking, well, it's a true statement, but I don't know if it's as relevant. I might drop it there. Then I read option B. Teachers want to make an impact on the lives of others. Boy, that sure seems like that's true. That's the reason. It's a really good reason. It's the reason I know most teachers get into it. I'm thinking that's a possible bullseye answer. Let's keep going. 46% of teachers in public education leave the profession in less than 5 years. Well, that's true, but it doesn't go with why people get into the profession. They don't get in to leave it. But that's a black ring. That's a way out there. That's a no, far away, not so good. Let's jump into D. Teachers are excited to share their content knowledge with students, with children. Well, yeah, I know that's one of the reasons. Is that the best reason? Because of all that we know. Boy, I'm going to say that's like a red ring. Boy, that's really close. I just think B is a better option. So I'm going to put that here in the red ring. Give students a few moments to read the question and plot their answers. Then announce 1, 2, 3, show me. And when you say show me, I want each group to lift up their bullseye board. I want to see where they placed their answers. Well, yeah, I'm looking to see what bullseye they chose, but what about the other 3 options? Where did they land? And we start to look around the room at other groups and their answers. Even if students have all of their answers in the exact same rings on the bullseye board, pause and discuss their decisions. Have them rationalize any discrepancies and make sure to point out the subtle but significant differences between those kind of close red ring answers and those bullseye yellow ring answers. The power of the bullseye answer strategy is it slows our kids down. It requires them to read every possible answer and place it within the bullseye board. You can download the Bullseye board in a variety of formats within the print article that corresponds with this video.